Hey friends, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Stephanie, and today I'm getting to a video that I've been putting off for a long time. This is much requested of me on Instagram. If you follow me there at all, then you know I am an avid baby wearer, and my favorite type of baby wearing is ring slings. Chances are, if you've watched my stories even once, you have probably seen my sweet little baby all tucked up in her ring sling as I do it on the daily, multiple times throughout the day when we're outside cooking, cleaning, all that good stuff. So once in a while, I'll take a quick story and just happen to have baby in the ring sling carrier. So today I want to go through some of the ring slings that I have. I want to show you some of the differences, the pros and cons of ring slings. I'm going to do a quick tutorial of how to get your baby nice and snug in your ring sling and hopefully get you well on your way to your own ring sling journey. For me, ring slings are a favorite because of the simplicity and ease at which I can put them on. Of course, being a mom of 4 with 2 under 2, everything needs to happen quickly. I almost never go outside with my kids without my baby being in a ring sling or some type of carrier. And ring slings are the easiest way I've found to just throw her on and then have my hands ready to go for my 18-month-old who is crazy. Once upon a time with my first baby, I actually had one of the boba carriers, the strap-on ones that's, you know, like pretty big and bulky, and that was the only type of carrier I had at the time. And then once upon my second baby, I invested in a wrap carrier. So I'll be doing a full YouTube video on all of the different types of carriers I have because I have several, and the pros and cons I see with some of them and why ultimately I would choose a ring sling over just about any other carrier. Today's video is just going to focus on ring slings, as I have slings from about 5 different companies, and believe it or not, they are all very different. And just because I know this is a question I'm going to get because I get it often on Instagram, my favorite ring sling maker is Hope and Plum. I will link them below. I also have a coupon code that I like to share around because I believe in these ladies. It is run by 2 amazing mamas. They're just the sweetest ladies ever. One of them is local here in Minnesota, and their ring slings are part of what got me hooked. I had one, my first one came from Wild Bird, and while I love the pattern, the fabric has never softened up for me. And then I got another one from I believe it's Baby Tango ring slings, and I didn't love that one either. It was fine, it worked, not my favorite. I finally ended up with this one, which is called Bear Grass by Hope and Plum, and this sling is what got me absolutely hooked on baby wearing, helped me to fall in love with it, to feel snugly and comfortable with my baby. I believe it's a cotton and hemp blend, and it already comes pre-softened, which is why I love Hope and Plum and highly suggest them to everybody, because their fabrics already come softened, whereas a lot of the other ring slings are linen blends or just blends that have a crunchy feel to them and they're not snuggly. They're not something that you want to like wrap your baby up in. But this is a blanket that I could put on my baby and feel good about swaddling her in. So this was my first sling that really helped me fall in love with Hope and Plum and ring slings in general. And then this is my newest one from them, which was part of their spring/summer launch. I think you can see some of the details there and how pretty it is. It's a little bit thinner than my Bear Grass. I also love the rose gold hoops on it. But seriously, if you're looking for a ring sling company, especially if you're a newbie and you don't know where to start, you're gonna go to Hope and Plum, you're gonna use my code, and you're gonna thank me. When you're getting your ring slings started, of course, make sure it's not folded at all. I just go ahead, throw it over my shoulder, and then I like to keep the rings way up high like this, because you'll find that as you put baby in and get baby situated, it's all gonna slide down, and then usually my rings end up here. At the end, you wanna make sure that you're doing kind of like an accordion fold like this, where it's bunched and it's not overlapping, because if you find that it's folded or overlapping, it's gonna be a lot harder to adjust individual areas. So I put it through, I'm getting my hair here. Pull it to a decent length. See, there's still a pretty good pouch there to be able to slip baby in, and then you're going to want to adjust through the rings. See what I mean by accordion fold? I want to make sure that nothing is overlapping as best as possible. Then later when I go to put baby in and I need to tighten, I can tighten individual areas instead of it getting all messed up. That'll make it a lot easier for getting baby in there securely. Of course, before you put baby in, make sure your rings stay way up high on your shoulder because it's all gonna slide down. All right, so we're gonna get our little grumpy baby model in our ring sling. So I usually hold them up on my shoulder like this, slip baby in, and normally she is crying when I'm putting her in there. I'm gonna go ahead and tighten here. Oh no. Why? Because mama wears her baby when she's fussy. It's her. Okay, so the key to a good ring sling, a good safe seat, is to bend their knees up and make sure they have a deep M with their legs. Calming down. We're already melting into mama. This is why mama loves a ring sling. Yes. Okay, so like I was saying, the key to a ring sling is getting a good deep seat. So I'm gonna pull, there's lots of extra fabrics here, see, and obviously that's not safe. So I'm gonna go ahead and pull like this and pull the extra over. So now there's quite a bit of extra here. This is where your accordion fold comes in super handy. I can pull on just the piece that I want tightened. So as I pull this, this is tightening right there. So all I tightened was this area right here. This is still all the same in here. But because of tightening that, I can feel the tautness of the fabric right here. So it's really, she's being supported right here on her butt. Got a little bit more, I'm gonna tighten it just a little bit. And then that's actually pretty good. And then as you see up here is kind of loose. So I'm gonna pull over again and go ahead and tighten just right here, which see how that pulled that in nicely. And you want to leave a good amount. There's quite a bit of like fabric down here kind of bunched up. If you need more, just pull from the bottom here and pull it up. For newborns, you can pull this. You can pull from the bottom, pull the fabric up, and pull it all the way up over their head like this, to keep them nice and secured on you. If they have, you know, trouble holding their head up or their head isn't quite as sturdy, their neck isn't quite as sturdy, you can go ahead and pull it up like this so that she's gonna stay nice and tucked against me, and then just in case I make a sudden movement, I don't have to worry about her head rolling back. But Sammy actually has really good neck control, so I don't do that much anymore unless she's fallen asleep. When she's fallen asleep, a lot of times I'll pull the top up and over and just keep her, you know, 'cause her head, I don't want her head flopping around. Or if I'm doing, you know, maybe going for a walk or we're kind of doing some like vigorous movement, I will. As far as the shoulder goes, if it's too high up on your neck, you can pull the fabric down like that because you don't want it bunching up here, otherwise it can kind of rub funny, and so you can pull it down over your shoulder to help evenly distribute the weight. And then you can see in the back that it just goes, you can see in the back that it just goes around my back. Obviously you got to make sure that it's not twisted or anything, but there she is. And the key to this is always to have a deep seat. Her knees are way up here and her butt is down here. You want her knees to be higher than her butt. Hi, how's it going, little baby? Honestly, I fell in love with ring slings because my babies fell in love with them. I started using ring slings when I had Aurora, who was my third baby, and I noticed this, that I put my baby in my ring sling, she instantly would just kind of melt into me and calm down. It's a really easy way to soak up all of the baby snuggles while still being able to take care of your children and being, you know, slightly operational. I feel like a lot of times when I'm holding her, you know, obviously you have to have at least one arm that's always holding her, so I constantly am like mastering the one-arm motherhood. This has just been an easy way for me to be able to hold my baby but also stay functional. Also, if you have like a teething baby, a fussy baby, a clingy baby, anything, it's just a really good way, I think, to bond with your baby, but especially like when my babies were going through, you know, fussy periods where they were teething or something like that. Can you see? She just grabbed my shirt. I found that it was super helpful because I didn't have to worry about constantly holding on to them and picking them up. I just have them by me all the time. So she's being comforted by mama and I can still go about my daily business. Sometimes while you're wearing your sling, as you get situated, you kind of relax a little bit more, and so I've noticed that my sling will kind of just slowly go down a little bit where she's not as high as she was. So if you ever run into that problem, I just grab this here, bring it down around her shoulders, hike her up just a little bit, and then go ahead and tighten the whole thing like this so she's up high again. I just like her head being on my chest. It's where I'm the most comfortable and feel like I can support her the best. Where, you know, people kind of have to feel that out for themselves where they want their baby to sit on them. Okay, so let's dive into a few things about ring slings. Number one, are they all created equal? I would strongly and resolutely say no, 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 they're not. I have ring slings from 5 different companies, and they are all vastly different. Surprisingly, the weight of the rings actually makes a huge difference in your ring sling's ability to stay tight. The struggle that I had with this ring sling is that the rings are very lightweight. They feel almost like they're hollow, which I believe some rings are, whereas these ones have a heftiness to them. And so when I would wear baby in this, I found that they were continually slipping on me and just didn't have the nice cinch that these ones do. So yes, rings make a huge difference. Really quickly, let's talk through some of the pros and cons of wearing a baby in a ring sling. So for me, one of the major cons is that this arm does not have full mobility. I wear my ring slings a lot as I'm just going about my daily business, doing household chores and stuff like that. It's allowed me to be able to get some cleaning done that maybe I would have to wait on because baby is fussy or whatever. But it does definitely hinder the arm, you know, whichever one that you put it over. Now you still can use it to lift. Usually I just kind of hold on to baby, and if I need to like raise up on my tiptoes to get something up there, whatever, I make it happen. It's not a deal breaker to me because I still have this arm with full range of motion, so it's not a big deal. But this can be a little bit annoying, especially as you get used to wearing a baby in a ring sling. I just completely forget, so I'll go to grab something, I'm high, and be like, oh yeah, other hand. So which side do you decide to put it over your shoulder is totally up to preference. I think most people, I'm right-handed, and so I think most people go with their strong arm. It just seems more natural to me this way. I have tried it on the other arm, and I just it was completely backwards and did not work for me. So whatever works for you or whatever you think would be the most comfortable with. Do notice though that obviously my left arm is the only arm that has full range of motion, whereas my right arm is a little bit more pinned. So if you're worried about that, then when you get started, I would just say put it over whichever arm isn't your dominant arm, because you'll get used to it eventually. I'm sure if I switched and started doing it over my left shoulder, I would eventually get used to it. This is just the way that I've always done it. There also is a learning curve when you're first starting out. I have a lot of moms who come to me and are just like, help me, I don't know what I'm doing. I totally feel you. It can be a little overwhelming at first just because obviously you want to make sure that your baby is secure in there and that it's tight enough, but is the seat deep enough? And it can get a little bit overwhelming, as I think any baby carrier can. If you have a friend who's already well versed in ring slings, just reach out and ask for help. It's easiest when you're in person so they can help you troubleshoot some of those areas. But the thing that I would really say is just look up a couple different tutorials and then just keep trying. You've got to try it a few times to even understand how to get this adjusted where they're high enough. I think right in the beginning, I wore my babies too low where their head would be, sorry baby, their head would be way down here, and so everything just felt awkward. I couldn't get it appropriately tightened, and I didn't know that I needed to keep the rings way high up on my shoulder even before I put baby in, because everything slides down as you put baby in. So just know that there's a bit of a learning curve. If you're a little bit frustrated at the beginning, it's okay. I would say look up some specific tutorials on how to troubleshoot issues, and even if you see a lady out in public who's wearing one, go ask. Pros of using a ring sling. So I cannot tell you how many times I have brought this with me to a playground or something like that, and of course in the middle of my baby's playing, baby gets hungry. I'm like, oh my gosh. So I have used this as a breastfeeding cover-up. I don't like bringing tons of extra stuff. So usually I just take it off, I throw the rings up over my shoulder so it's slightly weighted so it doesn't blow all over if there's wind or something, and I just use the top to cover me up. If I feel uncomfortable at all or want a breastfeeding cover, this has come in really handy. Also, I like that during the summer or if it's windy out or something, you can throw the tail here up over their head like this to keep them in the shade. I mean, there's been multiple times I'm out in the sun and I just keep her shaded like this to make sure that she stays out of the sun or the wind. If it's a little cooler day, I've been known to throw the tail up like this, so then she has a double layer to help keep her warm. You also can do fun things with the tail. I don't do it often just because I'm around my house, so I don't really care. But like as far as having a newborn goes, you can twist the tail up like this, just in a very loose, it's not twisted hard, it's very loosely twisted, and so it's like nice and spongy. And you can twist it up to put it behind their head as extra neck support, and then you just go ahead and tuck it in there. I also have seen people do some really cute ties around their rings. Like if your tail is too long, like this one's a long one, which I love. I'm 5'8", so it hits just below my knees, and I feel like it just gives a really pretty gentle effect to the ring sling. But if you don't like that for any reason, or like let's say you're out and about, maybe you're gardening or something and just don't want it in your way, you can twist your tail up around your ring slings and do like some pretty ties up here. Again, I don't really do those, so go ahead and Google them, and I'm sure you can find a really quick and easy tutorial about that. One of the other things that I love about ring slings is that your baby is gonna fall asleep at some point. You know, they're snuggled up to mama, they're hearing your heartbeat, they're feeling you breathe. Like this is instantly what she does. She snuggles in and she goes to sleep. And then I've found that usually if I wear her for 15, 20 minutes, so she's really passed out well, I can actually transfer her really easily to her crib or her swing or whatever, so that I can put her down eventually, you know, on those super fussy days where you just can't get baby to go to sleep. I bet you anything, you would be able to get baby to go to sleep while you're, you know, holding her and still going about your daily business. And then once she's passed out cold, I've never had a problem transferring her. And typically to do that, like I just hold her butt right here, and then I go ahead and lift up on my rings to loosen it, and I'll unthread it completely and keep her in there. So then I just lay her down on, you know, the couch or the bed or in her swing or whatever, and use the blanket, or it's not a blanket, excuse me, I use the sling as a blanket over the top of her, so she just stays all nice and snuggly and comfortable and isn't even like switching blankets or anything like that. Gosh, what else can I share about ring slings? Honestly, I just love them because I feel like they're so pretty. I feel really bulky in a lot of the other carriers I have, especially the strappy ones with the huge padded straps and all the clips, and then there's things hanging down. And I wore one the other night and I was like, I feel like a nerd. I do not feel like a nerd when I'm wearing my pretty ring slings. I feel very soft and very feminine. And then of course I'm really spoiled with being able to partner with different companies, so I match them to my outfit because I'm one of those people. But I truly just have loved my experience with ring slings. I use them daily. Typically, because I have a couple different ring slings, I leave one in my van, there's one up in my room, there's a couple downstairs, I have one in like a to-go bag, I have one in my purse. Like, I leave them all over because they're just so quick and simple to throw on. I don't have to worry about getting a bulky carrier on like while she's crying. And then I found, you know, when I'm out and about, I use them the most. So I always make sure to leave one or two in my van just so it's ready to go and I don't have to remember it in the moment. Another question I get often is how long can you use them and what are the weight restrictions or limits or whatever. So really, you can use it as long as you want. I have never personally used it to carry one of my toddlers, although I've seen tons of mamas who do it, because not only can babies be worn in the front carry, but you actually can adjust it to have them sit on your hips. So you can do a side carry where she would be, well, she's too little right now, but as an older child, they could be rotated where they'd be sitting on your hip. And there is a method where you can wear them on your back as a type of backpack. And I've seen tons of moms who do that for their older children who may still want to be carried. The weight limits do vary a little bit depending on the ring sling manufacturer, the type of fabric that the ring sling is made out of. So you'll just want to check with whoever made your ring sling. Usually it comes in the little pamphlet that comes with it. I believe typically it's like 5 to, I almost want to say 100 pounds, but that might be kind of intense. Maybe it's only like 5 to 60 pounds or something like that. But yes, definitely could depend on the fabric, whereas like this fabric is so thick and so sturdy, I would have no fear putting my 6-year-old in this because it is so strong and sturdy. Whereas this fabric is very, very thin. I mean, it's almost slightly translucent, and I'd be a little bit more concerned about putting heavier weights in here. Another thing that makes a huge difference is the fabric. As I mentioned before, I love my Hope and Plum ring slings because they come pre-softened and they're just softer fabrics that they choose anyhow. This is my Wild Bird ring sling, which I absolutely love the pattern, but the fabric, although I've had it for over 2 years, still has a crunchy feel to it. It's almost like a mix between a linen and I would say like a burlap type, where it's just not comfortable. It's not something that I would think to wrap my baby up in to go to bed or something. It's not a fabric that I would commonly use. So this ring sling is by Sakura Bloom. I absolutely love the color. I think it's just such a pretty, like deep, kind of like a rusty mustard color. The rings are fantastic. I think the quality of it is wonderful. But this fabric is, I mean, I think you can kind of see how weighty it is. It's very weighty and heavy. It has more of a winter feel to me. So this one I actually used this spring while it was still cool outside because I felt like it kept baby a little bit more snuggly and warm. So this would be a great one, number one, for experienced users, because having such a thick weight to your fabric actually makes it a lot harder to string it through the rings and just get everything situated. I think if I would have started with a ring sling like this, I would have given up really, really quickly just because it's slightly overwhelming to figure out. So there are many different makers out there. Like I've already mentioned, my favorite is Hope and Plum. I appreciate their slings just because they come pre-softened, and I have not found that with other makers. Typically they come, you know, all fresh and brand new, which is great. And I mean, I love that nice crisp feel, except for when I go to wrap my baby up in it. Then I don't like that crisp feel anymore. So if you're looking for a wonderful ring sling company to support, these are mama made, it's run by women. I just love this company so much. Hope and Plum, and you can use my code HONESTLYMOMMY for 15% off. I've linked them below, but here are some of the other ring slings that I have. So as I mentioned before, this one is by Baby Tango Ring Slings. This is actually a linen, rayon, and cotton fabric. So you can see that one here. I also have this really fun ring sling from Vienna Springs Ring Sling. You can see their little mark here, and you can also see the fabric, how it has a really fun chevron detailing. This is also a thicker fabric. It's not quite as soft, but it does have a good strong hold to it. I feel like this would be a good intermediate one. It's not as thick as my one from Sakura Bloom, but it's also not as thin as these ones. So like this one could be one that would hold your toddler really, really easily, and you wouldn't have to worry at all. And this one has silver rings. This is my ring sling by Wild Bird. I know that they are an extremely popular one. Honestly, I would say that it's just good marketing. There are certain brands that have gotten incredibly popular because of social media influencers and just really good marketing techniques on Instagram, and I feel like that's this one. Like I said, I love the pattern, and they have tons of patterns to choose from, which is really fun and very, very tempting. But I have never been a fan of this fabric, and even 2.5 years in, it's not soft at all, and I have trouble adjusting it sometime because of that. I already mentioned my two Hope and Plum ring slings, but here is my Bear Grass again. So this is one is Hope and Plum, and you can see the nice detailing on it there. It's soft as can be. It has the black rings, whereas this one is May, M-A-E. It is their one from their spring line, and see how it has the rose gold rings on it, which I think is really fun. And I already showed you the pattern on it, but I just think that is so sweet, and it would be good for a girl or a boy. That's why I had them send this one to me particularly, is because I was like, oh, it'd be great for a baby boy or a baby girl, so when you're not finding out the gender of your baby, this one still works. So, should you buy your ring sling on Amazon? It's funny, I actually had a conversation with a mom on Instagram the other day. She was a follower of mine and sent me a DM and just said, girl, help me. She's like, who's the ring sling company that you're always talking about again? Like, just point me in the right direction. She'd been on Amazon, she'd been reading all the reviews, looking through all the different companies, and she's like, I'm a mess, I'm lost, I have no idea where to start. Personally, I have never bought a ring sling. All of mine have been gifted to me from different companies, and so I haven't ever bought any on Amazon, but I have heard the horror stories. And like I just said, the weight of the rings and the fabric make a huge difference. So when I go for a ring sling, I'm going for quality, and I want a sling that I know is going to look beautiful, is going to last me forever, has quality rings, all the things. So while of course I can't tell you where to buy from, and if you want to buy from Amazon, girl, you go ahead and do that. I would definitely suggest at least checking the reviews, really looking into it, and probably making sure that they have free returns so that when you buy it and you don't like it, you can come back to me and get a Hope and Plum. I wanted to show you my wild bird really quickly and kind of what I was talking about in some of like the fabric stuff. Because of the crunchiness of the fabric, it just doesn't lay nicely for me, which had me kind of frustrated as this was my first sling. Again, I love the pattern, guys. I can't get over the pattern for pictures and stuff. Come on, cutest ever. But when it comes to wearing it around the house, it's just not my favorite because it's not snuggly at all. So what I've found with this ring sling, and particularly the fabric, is that because it's not soft, it's a lot harder to keep it appropriately situated in the rings. And so a lot of times when I go to tug on just one area to tighten, it's already kind of overlapped, so it'll tighten what I don't want it to, which is really frustrating for me, and one of the things, you know, where people really struggle with ring slings. So that's just kind of my general 2 cents. And as you can see, like right here, I don't know if you can see how this is folded, and it just stays like that because the fabric isn't soft, so it doesn't allow it to kind of flop out in between using it. When it gets folded, it just gets folded. And I've read lots and lots of tutorials and blog posts and watched the videos of these wild bird lovers who talk about braiding their ring sling and like running it through the rings a bunch of times, or leaving it in your car, or sitting on it to help it soften up. And I'm like, dude, ain't no mama's got the time for that, okay? So that's why I go with a pre-softened one. So here's a quick look at my Sakura Bloom, which, like I mentioned, is really, really beautiful, but it's quite weighty. The rings are also, I don't know if it's just because the fabric feels so heavy or if the rings are a little bit heavier. They just feel heavy. And this one is not a very wide ring sling. There's not a lot of fabric width to it, which is kind of interesting. But that mainly has to do with, I think, because it's such a hefty material. If it was any thicker, it just wouldn't work in the rings. So this is what I mean by this one would probably be a little bit more of one for an advanced user. When you put it through, it just takes a little bit more muscle work. And then as you can see how thick that is right there, and that it's all folded over. There's not a ton you can do about that because of the thickness of it. So I'm still gonna work to spread it out as best as I can like that. And yeah, it's a lot thicker than I would say a lot of normal ring slings are, which, because I've been using ring slings for 2 years now, I didn't, you know, it just took me a little bit of kind of adjusting to figure it out, but it really makes a difference if you can keep it from being folded over itself. But yeah, so this one is a great one for like outdoors, springtime, fall, you know, it's a little cooler out. It could be a little warm in the summer because it's not quite as breathable of a material. So that would probably be my one hesitation with how thick this one is. If you're not already subscribed to my channel, I hope you will just take a moment and push that little red button, because I am here for you. As a mom of 4, I've just been working on putting together some videos to inspire other mamas, but also to share some of those tips and tricks that I've picked up and learned along the way. One of my favorite ones I've been able to share is my postpartum tips and tricks that I shared right after baby Sammy was born. So if you're in that stage of motherhood at all, definitely go check that one out, because postpartum is one of my favorite topics. I hope you enjoyed this video today, and that maybe this answered some of your questions and gave you some better direction if you are looking to buy a ring sling. This is not sponsored by anybody. This truly is my very own opinions and my thoughts on everything. Like I said, all of my slings have been sent to me for free. I worked with these companies on Instagram just, to share a post for them to help advertise or whatever. But this YouTube video has nothing to do with it. And most of these I've had for a couple of years. So just know that I am doing this because I genuinely love ring slings. And like I said, guys, Hope and Plum is the way to go. It's my absolute favorite. If you are looking for a good one, go for gold. If you have any questions, feel free to drop them below or come find me on Instagram. I'm happy to answer questions there and try to troubleshoot any issues that you're having. As always, I hope that you subscribe so you can follow along with my daily crazy, and I'll see you next time.